All right, this morning, new questions about what is next in television after the unprecedented decision by Disney's ABC to pull Jimmy Kimmel's late night show off the air. The network said Kimmel's show will be off indefinitely. Now, this abrupt decision came after FCC Chair Brendan Carr threatened to pull affiliate licensing over Kimmel's remarks about Charlie Kirk's alleged killer, also about the MAGA movement's reaction to it. Overnight, President Trump suggested more could be coming. This is what he wrote online. Congratulations to ABC for finally having the courage to do what had to be done. Kimmel has zero talent and worse ratings than even Colbert, if that's possible. That leaves Jimmy and Seth, two total losers on fake news NBC. Their ratings are also horrible. Do it, NBC. With us now, CNN political commentator Scott Jennings and Bakari Sellers. Bakari, I want to read you something that Britt Hume, who's an analyst and former White House reporter over at Fox News, what he wrote overnight. Britt wrote, "The First Amendment does not protect performers like Jimmy Kimmel from being canceled by their private sector employers, but I would have liked the outcome a lot better if the chairman of the FCC had not involved himself in it." What do you think of that, Bakari?
I mean, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that fascism. We're seeing that forceful suppression of the opposition led by the FCC chairman. This is what happened. This is not a decision or a business decision that was about Disney's bottom line. People who are saying that are just lying. This is the FCC chairman at the behest of the president of the United States, putting pressure on individuals to remove dissenters and voices they don't like. Now, on a very fundamental level, watching all of my friends on the right become snowflakes because all of a sudden they don't appreciate what people are saying is probably the most damning critique I could give this morning. But if Americans, when they wake up this morning at 7:30, aren't outraged, simply outraged by the pure callousness, authoritarianism, fascism that's being displayed by those individuals on the right, particularly the president of the United States and the FCC, then they're being blind to what is happening in this country right now.
And Brendan Carr, one of the things he said yesterday before the Disney decision, these companies can find ways to change conduct and take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
Yeah, look, he has a point of view about the Communications Act of 1934, the public interest issues. The Supreme Court has long held that Congress and the FCC have to regulate that. You know, there are statutory issues at play here. I personally think that this was a long time coming, frankly, that these affiliates, Nexstar, Sinclair, they own all these stations. We're hearing about it from their stations, from the people who watch their affiliates. And so, you know, at some juncture, business decisions get made. And Jimmy Kimmel is not personally canceled. He can start a podcast or go work for a cable channel anytime he wants. And ABC is perfectly welcome to put any other comedian on the air they want. But he had gone down a path that obviously was causing major business trouble for the people who actually put the show on the air.
But it was causing business trouble largely, or at least partially, perhaps due to what Brendan Carr said. Nexstar has got a merger in front of him with Tegna, another affiliate group here. And the FCC chair said this out loud before Disney made the decision. Just want to read you one other thing that Brendan Carr has said. This was in May 2nd, 2022. Brendan Carr put out a statement that said, "President Biden is right." I'm not sure exactly what he was talking about there, but he said, "Political satire is one of the oldest and most important forms of free speech. It challenges those in power while using humor to draw more people into the discussion. That's why people in influential positions have always targeted it for censorship." Bakari, a change from Brendan Carr, do you see there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is. It's hypocrisy. I mean, the fact is, look, let's just be extremely clear. You can talk about how you condemn the violence that we have in this country, the political violence. You can actually abhor and feel really bad, like I do. I was on here talking about it the other day about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. You can say those things and then also be very critical of the things he said while he was alive, the things he said specifically about Joy Reid or Michelle Obama or Ketanji Brown Jackson, the things he said about black pilots, the things he said about Martin Luther King Jr., the fact that he wanted to repeal the Civil Rights Act. We can actually have a conversation about how deplorable those things are without fear of repercussion. I mean, if CNN wants to now fire me because of the simple fact that I can speak freely about saying that I abhor assassinations or violence, but yes, be very critical of a man who I felt as if his words were bigotry, then that is a fundamental problem. And that's what we're seeing around the country. Whether or not it's on college campuses or whether or not it's on TV, you're seeing individuals on the right cherry pick free speech and cancel people. And I know they hated it when we were in love with it 5 years ago, but watching it right now and watching people refuse to speak out against it is the definition of hypocrisy and cowardice. And Chairman Carr, I don't know if it's hypocrisy, cowardice, or he's just very forgetful. But that's not who he was just 3 years ago.
And again, the question here, Scott, might be the differentiation between what a private company can do to any employee, to any of us, who work here right now, or what the government can tell a private company to do. And that's where the laws over free speech come in.
Yeah, and we here in a cable channel live under a different regulatory regime than they live under on these channels that are on the public airwaves. That's number one. Number two, again, Bakari mentioned, and you guys are reading the tweets about jokes and satire. Where's the joke? I mean, Jimmy Kimmel went on TV the other night. He wasn't telling any jokes. He was telling the American people a bunch of lies. I'm not certain it was in the public interest or the public good to do so. His show had largely become a political propaganda show. It's not a comedy show. And so businesses that put things on the air have to make decisions about content all the time. And in this particular case, my view is the content had gotten to the point where the people who have to air it were hearing from their, I'm sure, advertisers and their consumers. There are consequences to that sort of thing.
The joke came. I mean, it was a wind-up to a joke about President Trump's reaction, commenting on the construction that was going on when he was asked about Charlie Kirk. That was the actual joke in that case.
Was it a joke to lie about the shooter?
What he said, let me read out loud what he said about this. He said, "We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang, desperately trying to characterize the kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it." So if you read that literally, he was talking about the reaction to the killing there. I actually want to, Bakari, if I can, because there is one other subject I want to get to this morning, if I can. Yes? It's about, I want to shift gears and talk about the new book from Vice President Harris, which the excerpts keep on coming out. And the new bit that The Atlantic excerpted overnight had to do with her selection of a running mate. And in this book, she basically says at one point that Pete Buttigieg would have been her first choice. She writes in here, Buttigieg would have been an ideal partner if I were a straight white man, but we were already asking a lot of America to accept a black woman married to a Jewish man. Part of me wanted to say, screw it, let's just do it. But knowing what was at stake, it was too big of a risk. And I think Pete also knew that, to our mutual sadness. But the way she writes it, from the full excerpt I saw, it seemed like her heart really was with Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that sentiment from knowing people who are actually, conducting these interviews and went through this process. They will probably tell you to a person that Pete Buttigieg performed the best in those interviews, particularly the settings, not only with staff, but with the vice president. He's articulate. He's one of the smartest people we have in the American political discourse, whether or not you agree with him or not. He has a little Bill Clinton in him when it comes to being able to just articulate very clearly what's going on in our country. And yes, but she highlighted something that's very real. The fact is you weren't going to elect a black woman married to a white Jewish man and then have a gay man as vice president with two beautiful brown babies. That just wasn't going to happen. And I think anybody who says the contrary is just lying about where we are as a country.
Quick last word, Scott.
So you couldn't pick Pete Buttigieg because he was gay, but you could endorse taxpayer-funded sex changes for minors? I mean, honestly, and then you pick Tim Walz. There is not a single political operative alive who believes that Tim Walz was a good choice or helped the ticket. Pete Buttigieg would have been a far superior choice. And the idea that you're going to go blame it on that now shows just how unfit she was for the presidency in the first place.
All right, Scott Jennings, Bakari Sellers, nice to see you both this morning. Thank you very much.